To be free, to be spontaneous, to be able to play, live, and learn without the jab of the judging eye is to be enjoyed. The magical, colorful, and happening world of theatre promises just that. We bring to you conversations from all over the world with people who make, who create theatre. The world of puppets is magical theatre. Anurupa Roy is a magical puppeteer. She has delved deep into several traditions of puppetry and has traveled with the puppets all over India and abroad into unlikely spaces and realms, the physical, philosophical, psychological, poetic, lyrical, everywhere that life happens. Please like and subscribe. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to the podcast Theatre of Joy. Thank you so much, Anurupa, for coming and talking to me. I'm so excited about
Thank
this
you so much for inviting me. This is so exciting. I've been watching the other and hearing the other episodes. So this is a real honor.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. This needed to be done because how else can we hear all you glorious, wonderful people who are doing theatre out there, making theatre, performing, and doing puppets? So, Nirupa, tell us about your journey, about how you started off, maybe, but also I have a lot of questions about puppetry. So,
So
floor
I'll
is
keep
yours.
the starting of it quite short because the starting happened when I was a child. And it was because I uh, watched performances, and the double whammy was my mother also gifted me a puppet. And I remember in Delhi at the Shriram Center basement, there used to be the Sutradhar Puppet Theatre, which Dadi Padamji used to run. And we were in school and we went to see his performances. And I remember one of the first shows that I saw was where all the puppets were actually umbrellas. And it was a circus performance. And it was the umbrella was the elephant's head, the umbrella was the tightrope walker's skirt, the umbrellas were birds. And I remember the thought I had is, oh my God, everything that I've imagined inside my head is actually out there and it's real. And that's when I fell in love with puppets and I just knew this is it. Uh, but I think life takes you in various directions. And one of the primary things I remember, especially towards the end of school, because in school I was doing a lot of puppetry. We had a puppetry teacher in school. It was back then Sardar Patel Vidyalaya was a special school because there was a lot of focus on the arts. So the interest was alive till you grow up and then you start thinking, oh, this is not a real profession. This is a good hobby. Adults around you tell you, what is this? How can you be serious about this? This is playing with dolls. And I think that switch was very critical. Choosing it as a profession where, at the age where pressure from adults around you and peer pressure is very high to fit in, to be cool. And I think I almost went into a moment where I hid the fact that I was a puppeteer. And I actually tried actors theater, which was way cooler in college. And I remember coming to the conclusion, though I enjoyed it very much. I loved working with some of the directors who taught me. I learned a lot from them. I learned from co-actors, being on stage. All of that was lovely. But I remember came a point where I was almost going to film school. And my college principal said, why are you going to film school? And by then, she and a few of the classmates and a lot of the children in the neighborhood of the college knew I was a puppeteer. And I said, because there's a puppeteer who teaches in film school, and I will get to do puppetry. And she said, that's a very odd reason to go to film school. Shouldn't you just go to puppet school? And overnight it flipped. I think I needed that one adult to tell me that what I really wanted and what I really was valid. And I think sometimes that's all you need in life. So that's pretty much my journey with puppetry, with some details omitted.
Wow, wow, how grateful I am to your principal
Yes, me too.
to choose puppetry as a profession. Just one
Yes.
adult we need who understands us and who knows where we should go. So did you start with string puppets? Uh,
So, not really. I started with cutting up dolls because one of the biggest problems in India was that there is no puppet school, even though we have some of the oldest traditions in the world. There is no place that a young person can go to and say, "Hey, I want to learn this." For instance, there are the national schools of drama or dance, or all of the training places for all of the other forms. There is nothing like that for puppet theater, and that was a very severe challenge because it meant, and this is a pre YouTube era, right? You can't just YouTube a video of, let me learn how to make this, that, or the other. So I think that was a challenge. So string puppets are already very high end skill. So some of the first puppets I made were terrible. They were just cut up dolls, and I was trying to, work with material. Didn't know very basic things like what kind of material works with what kind of glue. I would sit up a whole night trying to stick a piece of foam with Fevicol, not knowing it doesn't work because there's a formula to it and it's chemistry. But I think the puppeteers in Delhi were very generous. And so our older generation, because a lot of them took me under their wing and taught me everything I knew in the early years until I went to puppet school in 2001, which was a formal school where I did learn to make a string puppet. And my final exam was a 22 string marionette.
oh,
Still have nightmares about it. And I've since never really worked with strings. I've never really gone that way because I think it felt like I always wanted to work with groups of people, and I felt like back coming back when I came back to India from puppet school, I wanted to build a company, wanted to train other people so that there would be more and more people doing puppet theater, and it felt like they needed I needed to use a technique which people would get into sooner so that they can really start going deeper into what is puppet theater rather than be really challenged by techniques like string puppet forms. Um,
yeah.
and and that was pretty much the first concern. A. B. Also, I felt like string puppetry is almost solo sometimes, because it's you and that string. Whereas a lot of puppets we use is three people to one puppet or two persons to one puppet, sometimes six people moving one puppet. And I love that synergy that you're breathing together to almost bring this dead organism to life is very special about puppet theater. It's really, really special. I mean, of course, a string puppet is also brought to life, but I like the fact that it sort of reminds us of how we are not islands and we are really synergetic in terms of being on this planet together, being in the cosmos together. So that was very, very interesting. And I think a lot of the puppets we use, then you could vary sizes. You could use really small figures, you could use giant masks, you could use huge big characters. So it freed us up to do to have visual variations like that and a lot of design variations like that.
Mhm. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, and I met a person recently who's learned shadow puppets and the backstage of shadow puppets. And well, that's tell us about this journey. I mean, what are you into now?
So, as of the last few years, I'm really focused on training future puppeteers. And I think that's a very critical, sorry, just putting the charger on, very critical aspect because um, the fact that there was no training when I wanted to be a puppeteer, I think has to be reversed. And that was 25 years ago. And the fact that there's still no training is a shame. So that cannot happen. And we always lament about, oh, how the oldest form of puppetry is from India, but in India it's a dying art. And it's not okay that we puppeteers are complaining about this if you're not doing anything about it. Number one. Number two, I think um, young people now have a lot more possibility of choosing careers which were earlier considered strange or weird or not really a career. So the opportunities are opening up, and I think when someone wants to be a puppeteer, there one has got to be there to say yes, it's possible, and at least ease up that first step that you take, which is training, because only then they can get to the point of saying what they want to say. So that felt like a very critical step. So the last few years, Katkatha has been very focused on trainings. I've personally been very, very focused on trainings, and this year I'm very excited because we're starting something called our Puppet Lab. So it's a space for experimenting with puppets and really asking the question, what is a puppet? Because there are 1,000 answers and it's different for each person. And I think the discourse is what we need to build. So, since 2014 with the Puppeteers Union and Katkatha, we were all doing our trainings.
Oh, there's a puppet union. Anyway, you can tell me about
Yes, the Puppeteers Union is a very exciting thing. It started in 1929 in Czechoslovakia.
Oh, wow.
And yes, and it's turned 90, and we're all a part of it. In India, we have an India chapter, so it's called Humayun-nama, which is the acronym for Union International de la Marionnette. So it is the oldest performing arts union in the world, and it has over 110 national chapters. So over 110 countries are a part of it. And it's a very exciting space because, it's where you live, breathe, dream puppetry with other puppeteers. And that's all you talk about. You talk shop. But in India, it started with great gusto in the late 80s and then, had a dip in the 2000s. It's back on track. And in 2014, we did our first masterclass. Then in Katkatha, we did a couple of masterclasses. Unima did a few. Then we did mentorship programs. So where we invited master puppeteers from across the world, master puppeteers from Indian traditional forms to come and teach, because it seems like either we are focusing too much on a Western format of puppet theater, like I went to a school in the West, and not learning enough about our tradition, or people are learning only about tradition and not, learning that there's a world out there and so many forms and so many innovators. And exactly like, the world of art or painting or theater, there have been schools of puppetry. There have been philosophies, there have been major thinkers who have set up almost like ways of thinking about the puppet and engaging with the puppet philosophically, psychologically. So it's something that I feel like a lot of young puppeteers in India did not have access to. So the training is not just a skill training, it's also a training in what is the philosophy. So what is a shadow? Why is there a shadow world? And why does the shadow world immediately start invoking certain feelings in a human being? The fascination that was there when there was no electricity, for example, it was all magical, is still there, even post electricity. The minute you switch off all the lights and you switch on this torchlight or this candle light and you cast a shadow on the wall, people are mesmerized. So what happens to us? What is this atavistic response we have, to the world through shadows? So those are some of the questions we start to ask. And in the lab is special because all the graduates of the master classes and the mentorship programs have, a lot of them have applied to this lab, where they will bring all the skills they had learned, but now they will experiment with each other. And the hope is that we get to build a network of puppeteers, young practitioners, who really start to support each other. Somebody is a better builder, somebody is more of a thinker, somebody is more of someone who directs and has a great imagination, and somebody is a great puppet mover. And they're all working in silos.
Experimentation is, I have to get this, experimentation is not a lonely thing
Yes,
where a single artist did with whatever space was available to them. Oh, wow.
absolutely. So it's very,
Beautiful.
very exciting.
And your community is growing.
Yes, I hope so. We're trying very hard that the community grows and grows.
Yeah. How exciting in the world where everybody is, you know, giving you their take on AI and how it's all going to be taken over. And, you have live humans interacting with each other, creating together, ideating together, and touching, holding, and collaborating to create art. That is amazing. Amazing. I must, I mean, I'm so, so, so proud of you. And yeah, so I cut you in the middle because I was so overwhelmed. So yeah, continue, please.
No, no, that's those are the labs, and they'll end in productions.
Yeah.
And it really felt like post COVID, there was very little support structure for artists. I mean, the experienced, well established ones, and definitely the younger ones. So
Mm.
this is also hope that, it's a question of pooling resources. So once you pool resource, somebody has space, somebody has bandwidth, somebody has a great laptop or a camera. What happens when you pool all of it? A, it feels less lonely. B, I think this survival mode we are all on, we have to really circumvent that to create truly. And that's the attempt.
Yeah, I smell the, thinking about oneness in what you're saying. You know, yeah, instead of being against each other in the art world, why
Yes.
not come together? And you're the perfect teacher, actually, because I've attended a couple of your workshops. Maybe you don't remember, but yeah, your teaching was amazing, and how you must be bringing the young people together. And there's so much in it, so much more than just puppets. But tell me, and this is a question probably on many lips: why use puppets and not just perform in theater?
I think puppets are special because they're made of dead material. So
Hmm.
the minute you put dead material in a performing space, so you put the focus on it and you put curtains around it, it is immediately metaphoric. You're immediately going into a realm of what is unreal, and then the possibilities open up. I think it happens in actors theater as well, because an actor is donning a character and the audience is suspending disbelief and believing, XYZ actor is now Macbeth, or now Draupadi, or now something. But I think the puppet is just itself. It's just wood, styrofoam, fabric. So the audience is not just believing it is Macbeth or Draupadi, it is also believing it is alive. And
Hmm.
that is quite an extra effort for an audience member. So
Hmm.
actually, the puppeteer and the audience work together to put life into the puppet.
Yeah.
And that's a very exciting space, simply because you have a larger license to say things and do
Hmm.
things, get away with things sometimes, because it's the puppet said it. You didn't say it.
Yeah.
It's it's just a bit of fabric which said it. The other thing that really excites me there is this relationship between the puppet and the puppeteer. So if I was sitting here with a puppet right now, you would see two entities, but
Hmm.
actually it's just me. And then the
Hmm.
audience starts to invest life uh, in this
Interaction.
person or entity, or this is illusion. And
Hmm.
it's a constant reminder. And we've done performances with puppets with lights on. Children don't mind. Children are still laughing and happy. The adults get so self-conscious about, oh my God, how can I believe that this piece of wood has life in it? And you
Hmm.
see the duality uh, of believing and not believing, but they're happening simultaneously. And this is a great power that human beings have, sometimes misused as well, but it's a great power that we have of uh, knowing something and believing something else, and this constant tussle in the duality. And that makes puppet theater very exciting for me because it's a deeply, deeply psychological phenomena.
Yeah,
And
it's
now they're
more
studying it.
alternative world.
It's an alternate world. It really is an alternate world.
Yeah, amazing. Will you tell us about your most amazing experience with your puppets or
With puppets, I think
performing with
one of
puppets?
the most amazing experiences I had is this is almost 20 years ago. I went to a village uh, near Rewari district in Haryana. And we were talking about gender to women in villages. I don't know why. Because I think women who live in Rewari are very feisty and, could teach all of us in the cities a thing or two. But what was very exciting is I pulled out this life-size puppet of a woman, of a girl, and they were so they were so it was beautiful because they all wanted to touch her. And there was a line of 400 women who wanted to touch this character. And the touching was, mostly the face and the hands. And it went to a place at some point where um, there was a story. This girl was a survivor of domestic violence. And there were points where they were hugging her, holding her. She'd become so real. And for some of them, it was really real. She was so real as a symbol of what she had survived that she'd become a person. She'd become a person because all these women had just invested life in her. And I was just holding her. I was just holding her head in her hand, and she was just looking around. And it made me realize that this is what has happened through centuries with puppets. It's the audience which watches it and this performer together. It's very invocative. You're invoking something. Yes, life, yes, feelings, but almost. So this group of women, what they had done is celebrated this survival of this one woman, and their own survival, their own, what they had overcome in their lives. And this was very powerful. And this was this dead material. This was a bit of thermocol. There was a head was thermocol, a shoulder was thermocol, and she was wearing a ghagra, and she just had a dupatta. So it takes very little for us as human beings to really come together and to celebrate things that were possibly at some time very difficult or sad or, almost devastating. And that became a continuing theme because after that we worked on a similar character who was HIV positive. And back in the day, there still is, but back in the day, the taboo was very high. The discrimination was very high. And he used to narrate his own story, and it was narrated by someone from Delhi Network of Positive People, who was narrating his own story, but with this puppet with no features, no face. And it was incredible. No matter whether we went into a stadium or a bus stop or a school, people were always holding him at the end of it. So I think this is the power of the puppet. It's the true power of this form.
Anurupa, I love you. I love you so much. You've taken, puppetry to a space and level that, that is the fruit of your persistence, your perseverance. I mean, let's not use these words. It's just your being there with puppetry and puppets, and also the sensitivity of your. I'm just losing words of your own being. I watch your plays and I watch how you bring things together, and it is not just showing off that look what I can do with puppets. It's going deeper into life, into people, into what as people on this planet we have to deal with, and how can puppets help? I mean, I'm saying it all wrong, I suppose, but we are out of time now. But Anupa, please, can we have another conversation soon?
We will. Thank you
All
so
the
very much.
questions that have come up in my head, and the people who are watching can, I'm sure they can't be really answered, but we can get a feel of it. How
Thank
amazing.
you.
Thank you so much. Thank
Thank
you
you so much.
so
Thank
much.
you.
And God bless you. And please keep continuing doing what you're doing and being what you're being. And I know that's, I don't have to say it, you're going to.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you so very much.
uh, thank you so much. But you haven't said yet, yes, that you will come again on the
I will.
podcast.
I promise. I absolutely promise.
Thank you. How quickly half an hour goes, I can't imagine.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.